second semi-final of the 5th Sunday Cup of the full season here live on FACEIT TV. And we are off on fearZZz to begin with. The Russian with the flick action railgun. And this is quite an interesting way to start. You can definitely tell that he's a TDM player with a start like that. And unfortunately, this is something we've seen before actually. We've actually seen that before. I think it's something that's arrived in the metagame a little bit. But Toxic wins out on that battle, and now he's going to have not only just one frag in the lead, but he has the railgun, he has the lightning gun, he has everything apart from the rocket launcher and the plasma gun, which is both weapons he needs to get onto the red armor. But he's okay because red is not spawning right now, so that's okay. And fearZZz, deflected at the railgun there. Toxic dealt with that threat quite simply. So let's see how Toxic kind of takes shape, his style, the kind of decisions he tends to make. Let's see how that goes. So he's about to approach, the kind of fully in control status as he picks up this red armor. He's going to hit a really huge stack, and there he spots fearZZz. He knew that fearZZz had to be lurking around somewhere. fearZZz some good damage, and Toxic missed his shot. So Toxic trying to predict where fearZZz is going to rail him from there. Not going to quite catch him, but that was some good work from fearZZz. fearZZz actually might be able to go for a challenge here. Again, this is what I'm talking about fearZZz previously. Great sneaky plays, but there you go, the aim of Toxic, they're overcoming fearZZ's sneaky plays. And the thing about the sneaky plays is that sometimes, if you leave yourself open like fearZZz did to a rail that can finish you like it did, then it's not really worthwhile, because now he's lost a frag, and that frag was basically just for free. There was no grand scheme. There's no plan behind it. Behind just catching Toxic with some damage. There's if Toxic hits his shots, you don't escape that situation. You die. So it goes kind of for nothing, because this is not a map where you can put a bunch of deaths into retaking control. It doesn't really work like that on Blood Run very well. So now we've got Toxic at 200-200, and let's see how he plays this. He's going to throw some grenades. He's going to connect with a direct, I think. That was a direct because of the timing of when it exploded. So now Toxic is just going to cycle and cycle. And this could be very straightforward. Very ABC. Positioning, timing, and execution. There is Toxic again, over at the Mega. You can just see this, again, very simple. And the thing is with Toxic is he knows he's not going to go crazy chasing for his opponent. He doesn't need to, so he won't. He'll just keep chilling, taking the items if fearZZz shows himself. If fearZZz tries to damage him whilst he's taking something, then he'll just hit the shot. And fearZZz, it's a war of attrition all over again. And slowly but surely fearZZz will die. If fearZZz goes to a commitment, Toxic is always going to be in a good spot for himself, where his position is strong, and he has a stack advantage, so fearZZz will die. So I'm struggling to see fearZZz doing this, but he does manage to steal that. Okay, that was perfect from fearZZz right there. So he showed everyone a good way to handle this situation that I was describing for Toxic, which all things that are strong for Toxic. But Toxic there wasn't quick enough to position on Mega, and fearZZz had, even though he's out of control, and this is something to note if you're a player and you want to be good. So even if you're out of control, you've got to be timing the items that you're not getting. For example, the Mega, you've got to be timing that. Not only will it tell you likely where your opponent should be at various stages, it will also allow you to do something like fearZZz did. So he effectively, in that fight, he had a stack deficit, but because he took the fight and was able to take the Mega during it, he has an effective 100 health more in that fight. So that's what he used to his advantage and pushed Toxic away. So let's check out fearZZ's stack right now. You can see he's building up a little bit. The play didn't amount towards too much, but here he will get this red armor finally. So he's in a comfortable spot now to make something happen. And Toxic's advantage on the stack is only about 50 armor. It looks a lot more than it is. But you can see it's just about 50 armor, about 100 now. And it just takes one good rocket or picking something up mid-fight to equalize everything. But Toxic does get the Mega there. Slowly makes his way over. Oh, good rail there. And this is where it starts to get really problematic for fearZZz. If Toxic keeps hitting those shots, fearZZz is going to be in a lot of trouble. 2-0. Approaching the halfway mark again. Toxic is silent. Trying to catch fearZZz. This is it. Oh, beautiful there, and he does exactly that. And I mean, this is the thing with Blood Run. He's basically walking silently because he's like, okay, if I stay static, if I stay silent, maybe my opponent will show himself. And he dropped, and FaZe did show himself kind of at the last moment of Toxic's silent behavior. So Toxic was able to get an ambush, get the element of surprise into some damage. So good stuff from Toxic there to try to catch FaZe. It worked. Massive setback for FaZe. And the Mega's spawning soon. And FaZe has made plays for it before. We know that he's probably got a perfect timing on it. And yeah, this is indicative of that. And look at perfect rockets from Toxic. And that's going to mean that FaZe goes down. And yeah, that from where FaZe was standing, you can see that, okay, he knew when Mega was going to spawn. And Toxic kind of realized he had to be aggressive there. And that's the thing. The first bounce of that rocket committed FaZe to the fight because he got pushed into the corner. So that means that there was all the escape options. Toxic just put the red light on. There was like no way to like use anything there. He had to commit, had to fight, and he would fight to the death. So Toxic now 3-0, and you can see just very slowly but very surely getting one frag upon another on Blood Run. Very always reminds me of Zamis. Because Zamis used to be all about control and just being like this walking turret. His aim was so good. And he never really went for crazy aggressions or plays. He would just rely entirely upon if you showed yourself, he's going to hit you in the face or something, and he's just going to keep running control forever. And but that was also back when we had 15-minute duels. And again, perfect LG from Toxic. FaZe goes down again. And this is it now. FaZe, if you're in the mind of FaZe, he's thinking, God, there's 3 minutes left. I've tried pretty much everything. And I haven't been able to be successful. Toxic out-aims me. He's so solid. But the only play that we saw working for FaZe was, again, a situation which he engineered where he could steal the Mega, which is actually a little bit of a mistake from Toxic to not be there a little bit sooner. And have that, 100 effective, health more than he had at the start of the fight because he was taking the Mega mid-fight. So that was like the only way that FaZe really shook Toxic. And look at that perfect LG. Just amazing, amazing aim from Toxic as we expect. 44%, 46 rail. He's hitting very well. And look at this, 1 Mega for FaZe. That was the only Mega he ever took. 2 reds for FaZe and 13 yellows. So perfect damage there. FaZe, it's the Toxinator, man. I mean, what are you going to do? It is the Toxinator. He has the nickname the Terminator for many reasons. 1, he's really good. 2, he used to be really buff. I don't know if he still is like really buff, but he used to be really buff. And also, he just had this machine-like demeanor, like so cold and so focused on the destruction of his opponent. Almost something you can relate, I suppose, to the destruction of the human race that the machines have. But Toxic. 8-0. It's very calm and deliberate, and FaZe had no answer. And this is really where I'd love to see Cypher thrown in here, or we will see that. We'll see probably Cypher Toxic playing on Blood Run because they're gonna go for a best of 5. So we'll probably see that. And what you need to do is you need to like look at this game and like take a snapshot of everything that happened, everything the FaZe tried, and then when we go into a Cypher Toxic Blood Run game, assuming that FaZe can't take the next few maps, you need to look exactly how Cypher handles the situation differently. Because that's, what the top players were able to achieve. And this is what I was talking about, like, the style of Toxic is so overpowering that you can't beat him with just standard straight up play. You can't do it. You need to be something a bit more special. So that's what Cypher will bring to the table. He will do that. So that's what you're going to look out for. And that's what's really interesting about the really, really top level, like the elite players playing. And 40 seconds left. 11-0 in Toxic, He's having a pretty sweet run of it right now. Another frag onto FaZe. And just again to remind anyone who's just joined the stream, we're going to be airing the summer season finale movie before the grand finals, and it's about 10 minutes long or so. So there you go. And nice little rail there from Toxic. 13-0. Again, just untouchable. And I doubt he wants to give up a single frag here if he can avoid it, but there it is. One on the ball for Fizz, which is something at the very least, and good game exchanged by both players. And again, Toxic it's just like running into, like not a wall, but like a mountain. You can't even, like you look up and it like, the mountain just goes through the clouds. You can't even see the top of it. It's just this insurmountable obstacle. That's what Toxic seems to be right now to FaZe, especially on Blood Run. So let's, 13-1, you can see, I guess you guys could quickly see that it's just 15 megas for Toxic, 19 yellows and 15 reds. 3 reds for FaZe and like 3 megas or something, or 2 megas. It's like, all right. Not only that, not only was the control stronger, but also the damage output was just far in advance. And again, that just really reaffirms what I'm saying. You can't outstandard, like, you can't out fundamental Toxic. You need something a bit more special than that. So we're going to move on to Sinister, which is important to see because we want to see what Toxic is like there. We know, we've seen him on all the other maps, but Sinister, I don't believe I've seen him here before. So here we go. This is the match point now for Toxic, and he is going to play against Cypher if he can defeat his opponent FaZe here on Sinister in the grand final. So FaZe, we're on him to begin with. Let's see if he's going to be able to get himself off to a good footing. He has everything but the rail. That's what he's looking for right now. But again, it could be risky to take the rail. I mean, Toxic might be there to try to trap him, but no, Toxic is completely in a different location. And this is something interesting because we're on FaZe's perspective from the beginning. So we really don't know where Toxic is. We're in the boat with FaZe right now. We hear some grenades, and what does that tell us? And we didn't see where they exploded or where they were even shot from. But there we go. The Mega is spawning. So obviously Toxic is there to defend it. And FaZe is there a bit late. It's almost like FaZe is positioning. Like he wasn't really thinking about the longer term there. And he's not in a position to really take the red either. Toxic's surely going to kill him before. Oh, and just FaZe being really sneaky there and putting Toxic in a weird position and actually steals the red in the most unorthodox manner. And this is the thing, really, like it was all a question of whether he wanted to take the fight against Toxic over the Mega, and he didn't have position on red at all. But then he kind of forced his way down in it, like with a drop onto the teleporter, and then did something weird to push Toxic off. That's not reliable at all, but he managed to make it work. So either way, there's going to be a kind of a brief period of equilibrium between the two players and their stacks. And FaZe should really try to push this now whilst he has the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, Toxic's going to start running away with things. If he can just pick away at FaZe with some rails, it's going to be a bit mean for FaZe. There's some good damage there from Toxic. A little bit of a lick of LG again onto FaZe. And FaZe, I feel like he needs to... It doesn't look like he's got a huge amount of direction in what he wants to do at the moment. The Mega's left up. And still up, actually, in fact, and Toxic's going to pick it up now. The red's quite far away. He's raiding onto the yellow. He does catch Toxic. Toxic predicted it, but still got hit by the shot. And FaZe now going to make the play onto the red. But there's Toxic catching him up with the jump pad. He can't possibly go up again. Has to rocket jump away. Takes a rail as well. Again, FaZe not thinking his positioning through thoroughly. And Toxic now has a huge stack advantage. Going to get the frag as well, I feel. And FaZe trying to escape, but not quite. 80 health, 100 armor. Toxic could use the window here, I think. Maybe. Yeah. And Toxic looking at this next red. Not much FaZe can do to really stop him. So Toxic, hell-bent on the destruction of FaZe, is one step closer now with that red pickup to achieving his dream of decimating FaZe and Sinister. And Toxic makes his way round to another yellow. So things are getting a bit slow here. It's all about Toxic just catching all the items. And like right now we've got red and Mega spawning at the same time. So that means that this is a chance for FaZe to pick something up. But if Toxic is really smart, he can actually stop the situation from happening with good delaying, or by basically using his stack because he's so strong and doesn't need to take an item, by just running at FaZe in the right way. That FaZe has to fight him and dies, and then Toxic gets both fighters. There's 2 ways to deal with that situation. Good fight here, and Toxic has great close range rockets, finishes him off with a bit of LG, and now he gets a free red. So now things are getting really bad for FaZe because he's not going to get anything. Toxic could establish quite a nice cycle of items right now, and if he hits a bit of damage, FaZe, he's going to go down again, and Toxic should be able to get every single yellow now, every single item just taken by Toxic. This is really bad for the Russian as Toxic intercepts with more damage. He's going to fire away his last 2 grenades in an effort to ward away fearZZz from the mega position, even though it's not spawning soon. And he's going to pick up a red on the way as well. And there it is, fearZZz. Good. Good death there. Very clean from Toxic. He has Mercy. Didn't make it painful and drawn out. Just a quick 2 rockets. 4-0. Approaching the halfway mark, and dare I say it, it feels like the story has been told. It feels like a repeat of Blood Run almost. Toxic fundamentals very strong. fearZZz needs to look for something special to try to make this work. Hitting the halfway point very soon. Still 4-0. And 180 for Toxic. Looking over the guardian of all the items on this map. It's like fearZZz is this foreign body trying to steal away all of Toxic's beloved armors and health, and he has to protect them. He's doing such a marvelous job. Bit of a boost there from below. fearZZz working his way up with a railgun. Nuisance he is, but Toxic, he's just batting away like a fly, just unable to do much really is fearZZz. The damage he did really kind of redundant, doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, because look at Toxic's stack still. He's still super stacked. Picks up another yellow, and let's look at fearZZz. He does good damage on Toxic up the jump pad, and that was good. That was a good play right there from fearZZz. And Toxic falling foul of it, gonna jump down for the mega, and fearZZz has to be perfect here with the rail. He misses the shot, and he hits one afterwards, but Toxic already made his way around to the red, meaning that fearZZz didn't have another opportunity to rail him after that connection. So going back onto Toxic now, we can see that, you know, fearZZz did manage to build up quite a bit, but Toxic still has the advantage. And it's going to be hard to see Toxic allowing fearZZz to take a fight to the death that isn't on Toxic's terms. 4 minutes remaining, and it's still a very close game. So fearZZz is doing well, keeping it tight right now. Dropping down on the mega, perfect play there from fearZZz, and not really getting caught too much damage, but Toxic's still so strong. This could be very, very misleading for fearZZz taking this fight, and there it is. Toxic takes the fight, and he's left with so much. Very demoralizing situation for fearZZz, and I almost wonder if fearZZz realizes how much he's left with. I guess he does, because he's not going for a challenge off the spawn. Toxic just leaving the red up here, interesting. Looking for those angles. Not going to find anything just yet. And now Toxic has the defense of this mega under lock and key, and again fearZZz tries to pressure from above, but again and again Toxic denies him. The consistent damage of the lightning gun, the ability to rocket jump when he pleases because his stack is so good, leaves fearZZz without any hope in hell of trying to make anything happen. And look at how smooth Toxic is, and there's really not much to say about it, as Toxic just keeps running the items and keeps executing his control. And this is the thing, like I said back in the day, okay, you look at Cypher and he's amazing under control. Toxic is supposed to be amazing in control. It's supposed to be one of the things that he's particularly good at. Like when he gets control, like never letting go of it. That's really what his thing. And that's how he would train as well. As I mentioned before, in Quake 4, he was famous for training against players who were worse than him, just so that he could really master, like truly master the control game. Because he would basically not really focus on playing out control too much at all, because I guess to him it's more about mind games than it is about much else. But running control and running items perfectly and hitting all the angles and shots and positions, that's really what you need to train. I think it was the mentality of Quake 4 Toxic. Good damage coming in now from fearZZz. However, Toxic still... Oh, there you go. Toxic goes for a bit of a risky move finally. And fearZZz does just catch him in midair. But here's the LG now, so fearZZz should be instilled with a great level of fear. Toxic with LG is trying to gun him down slowly but surely. It's a painful and drawn out death. But fearZZz, 4 health, how did he survive? Gets his way out of there onto the mega side. And he will even pick it up, but it's not very much he's left with. And Toxic still 8 frags in the lead. fearZZz, at no point has he looked like he's in control of this game at all. And look at even the dodging of Toxic. He's in his dodging, it's so confident, so so not arrogant, but just, well, maybe arrogant to a degree, just showing FaZeZz that nothing, no rocket's going to ever hit him there. And FaZeZz did a great performance today, and he can be proud of how far he came. But he's going to call it right there and then. And Toxic definitely very, very convincing series, very one-sided. But again, it's Toxic, and you can see Toxic hit 1 of 12 rails there, so he didn't even hit any rails. And what would that game have looked like had he hit rails? It would have been very, very, very scary indeed. So there you go. Toxic going to be facing off against Cypher in the grand finals. So guys, that leaves us to now. I mean, what do we show you? Well, I promised you the season finale movie for the Summer Cup, and that's what you're going to get. So I guess we're going to run that very shortly. It's about 10 minutes or so. So enjoy, and I guess I'll see you afterwards for the grand finals.